Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'll be reviewing my first round game from the 2025 Midwest Open. This is the fifth, I believe, iteration of this event, and the fourth time I've been to it. I think I missed the third one if I remember correctly. But regardless, I've been going to this event quite a bit. It's in Columbus, Ohio, and it's the biggest tournament in Ohio. So it's it's a 2-day event too. So it's quite arduous as well. But it's super fun. I love going. The people who put it together at Baduk Club and the Columbus Go Club do a wonderful job. And it's awesome catching up with friends and seeing people that I haven't talked to in a long time. So the event was totally great. Loved it. And this event, like normally local events near me, especially in Ohio, they're just open bracket. Anyone can play anyone. Obviously, you're going to play people near you, but this had two different brackets. One I just called the main, and the other one's called the Masters. Masters 4 on up. So that's the one I was in. And last year there was something similar. I think it was just a different name last year. But this year in the Masters we had a lot more players and a lot more stronger players attending this event, which was super exciting. And yeah, without further ado, I will review my first round game against Xukun, who I first met last year at this same event. That was the first time I met and played him. He's a very small, young child, speaks very little English, but he is very strong at his young age. It's actually kind of funny because every tournament I have been at since then, or at least every tournament me and him have been at since then, we have played. And that was twice last year. I beat him last year at the Midwest Open. He beat me last year at the Tri-State tournament back in like August, I think. And so yeah, right now we're 1-1. Now it turns out he's going to be moving away. So this was probably going to be the last time I ever see this small child, which also meant if I lost, I would have to forever be 1-2 against this person for probably the rest of my life. So I wanted to make sure that I won this game, especially how the last two games went. They were both going very well. Obviously, the one I won and one I lost. The one that I lost, it was going well until I made just one mistake. And again, at the top levels, that's all it takes. But I was feeling very confident going into this. So without further ado, let's get into the game. The time settings were Fisher time, actually, which Fisher time, if you're not aware of it, you get a base main time, and if that hits 0, you lose time. So there's no overtime, but every time you play a move, you gain back some time. So the time settings was 40-minute main time, and I believe you get 15 seconds back every time you play a move. But yeah, let's get into it. Enough blabbering on. I am black. Xukun is white. Get the approach and attach on top. This isn't bad necessarily, or at all, I should really say. It's just a little uncommon. Normally, you would just see backing off, and that's because you don't want to touch a stone you can potentially attack. As you can see, this allows black to get stronger. And then here, black has some choices here. Black could just fix. Black could just fix somehow here. This is a little tight, but it can't say it's too bad. But this kind of move or this kind of move, just fix. But if it was a little flat, you could also push up as well. So black has a few options. I just decided to go elsewhere, get the Shamari in the upper right. And then white does something very strange. White plays here. Now, by itself, it's not the craziest thing ever, I guess I could say. It's just the timing's a little strange. Normally, if you want to attack this lower left, you actually play at this spot. This is setting up playing h2, but also threatening to wrap around at g5. So yeah, this is what you would normally see, and it works even better if you have some stone protecting this cut at e4. So white immediately goes here, and my thought process is, okay, order of moves is important here. So for example, if I fix, right? If I fix now, so I need to fix my cut somehow. So if I fix now, and white just hanes, if I push now, here's the problem. White will just give up the 2. White will just let me have the 2, and you can see white takes the lower left, white takes the bottom. I just have a clump of stones. So that's not very efficient. So before I connect, I push here to ask white, what do you care about? If white were to, let's say, play the same exact way, instead of connecting, I could actually play a move like something a little more efficient. Maybe even just Atari like this. Or sorry, just ladder, of course. Yeah, I could just ladder. I don't need to play G3. So that's the idea, and that's really highlights the importance of order of move. So basically, while this move always seems sente, don't just assume moves are sente. Really try to read it out. Because what happens is white now blocks, but now when I connect and white lives, hane, double hane, I Atari and extend up. Now I can cut. So I prepared, before connecting here, I made sure white cared about those 2, now 3 stones. So I can cut. And this is a very famous shape where if you Atari down like this, black's able to play a diagonal here. And this is threatening if white descends to capture here, or if white descends somehow like this, I can turn, and this is threatening to cut at E6. Yeah, so this would be pretty disastrous for white, so white just gives it up. Or so I thought, because it turns out white tries running here. And I don't think it's necessarily terrible, but I would really advise against this. Even immediately, I would not try to do this, because while locally you might look at this and think, okay, we have a cut here. As white, my lower left is basically 100% alive, right? And so the only group I have to worry about is the center group. Whereas if you look at black, black has 2 weak groups. So surely saving this stone is going to be, or saving these cutting stones is going to be advantageous. Well, it turns out not so much. Not so much. And we'll see that because I'm able to turn here. This is so big. If white just like gives up these stones and like extends here, it's not that many points. It's honestly not that many points. Now maybe white thought, okay, I have to get something good here because black played elsewhere at 017, so white has to fight here. But we can see when I turn here, first off, this move by itself shouldn't be sente. I think so. Like white plays here. If white wanted to play anything, white should play this one. This is a more efficient way of fixing, where it also threatens to connect under. So it'd be a very nice move. Again, this is a nice shape, but it does one thing. Whereas this fixes the shape momentarily while also threatening to connect under, so it's more efficient that way. Yeah, but I think if white just like does something else, I don't think there's really anything there, is there? Yeah. I guess technically there's a ko, but this early on, this kind of ko is considered very heavy, like so. But I guess there is technically potential ko there, so maybe white does want to add a move, but then, yeah, that's where white should d2, and it also shows how not getting sealed in, this is very vital. This is a vital move to get for white. So white plays there, so I extend, white just backs off, and then cap. Now, the whole purpose of caps is to limit the movement of your opponent in that direction. So as we see here, white comes out, I can Atari and jump. White extends, and then I can jump again. And so notice, if I hadn't made that exchange, white gets to the 8th line, if you look at the coordinates, the 8th line in one move. Whereas just by capping, it takes white 2 moves to get to the 8th line here. So that's the beauty of caps, is that you're limiting your opponent's movement in that direction. And so all of a sudden, yeah, white is now spending all of white's last 3 moves, removing 1 line at a time. Whereas if you can see, I'm being much more efficient. I can jump and then jump again. White hanes and I can extend. And so if white adds some sort of move here, yeah, I'll get this corner somehow. And while the fight in the lower left is probably evenish, I got 2 moves elsewhere. I got O17 and R5, so black's probably slightly ahead. So white decides, okay, I'm going to approach the lower right, but black plays here. And this move is so painful for white, actually. It's so painful. So why is it painful? Because it's threatening to seal white in on a very large scale, and white might not even be able to live. So to look at that, if white just connects the diagonal, white's going to get sealed in. If you extend here, knight's move gets sealed in. Yeah, it's just very painful for white, which is why white really needs to add some move in the center here. Even making an exchange like this will help if black tries to seal white in. Yeah, maybe white can. It's so painful, but yeah. Playing some sort of exchange, though, could help white not get sealed in. I think white, though, because if you've ever played little kids at a Go tournament, you know how quick they are, especially in the opening. But once they have a problem they need to solve, that's when they spend their time. So this is like the first time. Like, white probably already had like a 5-minute lead on me. But at this point, this was when white started spending a lot of time. But yeah, just going back to here as well, one of the first things you're taught, and it's kind of like, okay, do I have to do this? It's kind of like multiplication tables. Like, do I have to do this every single move? But when it comes in handy, then it's like, oh my goodness, I'm glad I've learned this. Or in Go's case, I'm glad I've kept doing this. I'm glad I'm almost make it habitual at this point. And that is every move asking yourself, are any of my groups weak? Are any of my opponent's groups weak? And so here, if we look at the white groups, white's 3 groups surrounding the sides and the corners are okay. But this white center group, it's starting to get surrounded. It doesn't have a single eye. So white should really be thinking, okay, I should do something about that. Because as long as white stays strong in the center, then black has a weak group in the center as well. So white can profit by putting pressure on the center group. But as soon as I get to surround like this is going to help strengthen my center group, which will then allow me to potentially attack R5 or maybe build the right side or use the thickness however I please. So yeah, so every move, really ask yourself, until it becomes second nature, really ask yourself, are any of my groups weak? Are any of my opponent's groups weak? Every turn, if possible. Again, until it becomes second nature. So, cut. And so white had the problem here, which is why we'll see white playing some exchanges. So white attaches there. So again, the idea is, if white captures, then I'm going to hane. And you can't hane because I'm just going to cut. If you jump, same thing. I'm just going to surround you. Okay, and again, if you just jump, then I'll just extend. So white instead attaches. And so I hane, and I probably had slightly better options here. The one option is just to capture the center, which is pretty nice, of course. It would mean, though, depending on what happens with the board, that I might need to capture these stones. If you imagine, again, it's kind of hard to do, but if you imagine these stones get cut off, I'll be forced to capture these, which wouldn't be as big. So I figured, okay, since my goal is to just surround white, because I can keep using the fact that white's alive or not alive yet to my advantage. Whereas if I just take the tail, then white is now not indebted to these stones anymore. So it's almost like while you keep white squirming to live, you can still profit from it, which sounds so cruel, but it's true. So I Atari now, and then white makes this shape, and then plays here. And so the idea with white's exchanges here is before I could cut here, but now obviously I cannot cut there. So, but the thing is, white is still not alive. I have solidified my left side. I've solidified my center a little bit. where should black play next? And if you've seen my videos before, you should know what should be going through your mind when your opponent has a weak group. So where do you think white or black should go next? And it is somewhere localish. Black doesn't tenuki per se. So always keep in mind that when your opponent has a weak group like this, first identify nearby stones. So in this case for white, the nearby stones are the upper left. And then identify, okay, what would you like to attack? And so in this case, I want to attack the center here. This is worth so much. Like the corner, I can still invade it. Like it's not solid yet, so it's pretty light is basically what it is. So I can't really attack it if I like try to do something like this, right? Like it's just not possible. So instead, I want to play a move against the upper left that from indirectly attacks the center. And now that I've said that, hopefully one move jumps out at you almost immediately. And that move is G16. And G16 is the perfect move because, again, you're now playing a, I guess not always sente move, but a contact move to a lone stone. And so white really wants to answer if possible. Now, I've really wanted to play here once, but after white jumps, it doesn't work as well trying to keep white separated. I might be able to in some vulgar way, but it's just not going to be as good. So I just directly shoulder hit. White noses, of course, and white attaches, which I think white was thinking, okay, if I hane and then extend, because you have to extend, white's just going to like connect and let me take the corner. Now again, letting me take the corner, that is good enough profit, or even if I come back and extend, that is good enough profit. Again, white has not made any points just connecting back. But again, I had my eyes set on the center, so I simply just push here, saying, okay, white, what are you going to do? Because white's still not connected. And remember, white's not alive in the center. So white does take C15, and I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Isn't your center getting surrounded? So, okay, I hane at the head of two stones. So then white now plays here. This is starting to live, but it's not fully alive yet. So white just descends. Now putting pressure on the whole corner. So white cuts. Extend once. If you're going to sacrifice one stone, sacrifice two. This keeps a lot of aji with the Satari, with C17. Whereas if you allow white to get to capture, there's just less aji now. There's just a lot less aji. So extend. White extends with me. I play the move I wanted to play, and white says, I will live, and I spend the time to just surround. And if we look at this board position, look what black has gotten out of this attack. A huge moyo, spanning from the 5th line all the way up to the 17th line. Look at this huge moyo. And even though white did surround some of the upper left, again, it's not fully white's left because there's still aji at C17. And so now the rest of the game is, what can white do about this huge black moyo? So let's see. And again, I was expecting some cosmic move here. Like even if you play a somewhat normal move like this shoulder hit, I might just cap. And then transfer the moyo if something like this were to happen. Let's assume white's fully alive or pretty much alive. Then I can transfer my moyo to the right side. And that's kind of what you want to look for when you have a moyo, is can I transfer it? Even if my opponent invades, can I transfer it? So instead, like white should play something a little more cosmic, like maybe this. We're kind of ask black, okay, what do you care about? Like if you play up top, which black shouldn't, then white will obviously take the side. Well, if you play towards the side, well, now I have moves at N16, so then I can just kind of leave it for now. I think white should play something cosmic. I kind of like this spot. Again, looking to shoulder hit later. But white goes... Out of all the moves I was expecting, I was not expecting a second line move. I will admit that. yeah, like if anything, like play, it's got to be something in the center, at least on the side. But again, I don't think it takes a super strong player to know what direction do you think black went. Like, do you think black did this and let white extend like this? No, I just let white take the corner in Gote and allow me to pincer here. White attaches into the corner, and again, if you start to read out things, your Q3 stone starts to get heavy and you start to get weaknesses with knight's moves and one space jumps. So ask yourself, what does black need to do to win this game? And I asked myself that. And again, I don't think it, just visually, doesn't that center look giant? It has to look giant, right? Like, even though black has no points elsewhere, maybe a couple points on the left side, black has nothing else elsewhere, the moyo is just so big. So I just jump here. Again, this is where Joseki knowledge is good, but Joseki knowledge can't be used in a vacuum. It needs to be applied to the whole board. And in this case, any move I play next just didn't feel that good because it would allow white to come into the right side. So I just jump. White gets Q4, and again, I just surround. So somehow I have surrounded all of this. All of this. And so the question is, what can white do? Or is it too late? Or is it too late? So I was very surprised by a lot of my opponent's moves because to me, this looks like, as I'm playing this, like especially here, right? To me, it looks very obvious. Like, okay, black is building a huge moyo, especially at the mid-dawn level. Black is building a huge moyo. But it's like white gave me everything I could ever dream for. Yeah. So, yeah, even here, like, I know Q4 is big, and locally it's the best move, but like don't you need to do something in the center? Don't you need to like peep here and like shoulder hit or something? Isn't that what's so big? So I was very confused by white's play. And now white comes in. But the thing is, it's a little too late because even now, I'm like, okay, I could keep white separated, but if I keep white separated, like, now I am bleeding points if I can't kill this. Like, I have to make sure I can kill this. So instead, I just Hane. And the idea was if white went here, which white could have, I was just going to let white connect under. I was going to let white connect under. If white connected under, I'd probably extend like I do in the game and then play C17 and then take out their corner in the upper left. And again, this center is just so big. It's just so big. So yeah, so white kind of knows that and attaches, but again, I'm just like, okay, thank you. I will just continue sealing off the center. And so, yeah, it was like, I wasn't sure what white was doing. It's like white was playing as if there wasn't a huge center developing. It was very strange. It was very strange. And like, white is a very strong player. White's a very strong player. So, yeah, I don't think it was like hidden or anything like that. So I get to extend here and then turn. And white's like, okay, I got to do something. And white attaches now. So again, white is trying to get in, but it's too late. You had about 20 moves to do so, and you did not. So Atari and just Hane. White peeps. And now what do we get next? We get poking at all the shapes. And to white's credit, these are all the proper shapes to kind of look for. But again, just look how big, just like how big the center is. White peeps again. White is playing the bamboo joint. Destroy the bamboo joint. White's attaching. White's peeping. There's a potential Hane at F15 and cut. Well, this one as well. So Hane, Atari. Play here. It's threatened to connect an Atari and just extend and come down. And so white has created some resemblance of a group, but that group is not fully alive yet, of course. So I just Atari and extend down. And if white wanted to, white could have extended here, but it makes keeping Aji here a lot harder. So instead, white blocks. But I really think white should still extend, actually. After block, a cut, Atari down, I get this Atari, and now I've already fixed any weakness there. So I'm able to play L16. And again, this hits the shape point of white's group there. So white just jumps to now capture these 3 stones, which is important to mention. They were captured here, right? Like if white just extends and then I play here, these stones here are already captured. White doesn't need to worry, but white had to spend a move because white let me get this Atari, which extended my liberties by 1. So white plays there. I take. And this move is subtle, but this actually does threaten to capture the center. If white goes elsewhere, I can Hane here. Again, white just takes. This is a false eye. And if white pushes first to try to capture me, that's an Atari. So white needs to take anyways. You can see white gets captured. So white blocks, but I get Sente again. So I play at M2, saying, okay, you got to live. And white says, well, I really got to live up top, which truthfully, I understand. The top, like, again, black center / top is so big, but yeah, I just Hane. White plays here. And then I push once, and then I Hane here. And the point of this Hane is if I can force white to go here, I will fix my weakness here. And fixing this weakness, while I don't think is like the most valuable thing in the world, it does just create no Aji for white to use. White would just be dead here. There's just nothing for white. But white descends and I get to Hane, or get to descend here. And now not only have I taken out the corner, white's not alive on the right side yet. So white descends. I play at L2. And then white, which again is killing white's bottom side. So again, white tries to make something happen here, but there's just nothing. So white descends. But before I disconnect white, because technically white's only threatening to save the 4. If white ends up connecting here, I can always just capture K2. And so I can capture the tail still. So I figured there's still bigger things, which is just S7. And white goes here. Now, here I definitely could have just S8'd and cut off the tail somehow like this. And again, that's huge. But I was actually just focused on the lower right, because you'll see, so I play E1 now after getting this connection. So white wedges. I fix. There is Aji, and I just, yeah, white has some, I don't think anything works directly, but there is just a lot of nuisance for black. And at this stage, when you can see just, I've captured the center, at the bottom, the upper right now, like, black just has such a big lead at this stage. So I just fix. So white takes that, Atari. And then now I Hane. So this is what I was looking at when I initially ignored white's R9. Is this move's actually threatening the right side. If white goes elsewhere, I can Atari. You got to connect, but then I can play T12. And if you block, this is only one eye. And if you connect, this is only one eye. Because it looks like a Seki shape, but as long as black has the stone at R13, eventually white will have to fill at S12 with these tailing stones here. So that means technically it's a ko, but obviously this is such a good go for black. So white fixed. Technically, I think white can fix by going here. But I guess like it keeps some Aji alive here. But it doesn't actually help much once black plays here like this. So maybe it's okay to just go here. But I can play T5. White goes there. And I've created some sort of ko in the lower right. Push. And we'll see that ko in a little bit. For now, I'm just playing endgame because truthfully, I don't need the ko. I really don't need the ko. Again, if you just look at the board, this bottom side / center is just way too big. It's just way too big. So I just extend. I say I just don't want any weaknesses in my shape. No weaknesses. So white plays in, push, throw in now. White cuts, and now I start the ko. And again, like the ko that white could have had in the right side, this is a flower ko for black. And we played some threats, some what's the word? Just like some standard threats. This is important though. Again, order of moves is so important. Like this might be the first threat you think of, but if you try to play another threat, this is not a threat now. But you can actually start with this one, because if white ends the ko, you can now play here, which is an Atari, and then again, this becomes a false side. So by playing here first, this forces white to have to block. But now you have gotten this as a ko threat. So by playing this one first, you get an extra ko threat. So again, order of moves, just this slight order of moves, even just considering, like this might be the first one you see, right? But then when you keep looking, you're like, okay, that's not a threat. Can I get more than one threat? Just trying to optimize and be efficient as much as possible is so valuable. Play there, yep. So white pushes, yep. Play there, yep. Atari, sure. Play there, Atari, yep. Throw in, yep. This is also smart. If you Atari like this, there's no more threats. But by going here, even if black goes here, white has this threat. Now, the thing is, this threat actually wouldn't be a threat, because white would just be capturing 2 stones. But it's at least something, right? It's at least something. I think in that case, if I thought I didn't have any more threats, it would be better to go here then, because white actually does have another local threat there if white ends up getting this Atari. So play there, and then we get b5. And so the idea with b5 is, this was the first threat I thought of, but in my mind, I was like, okay, what if white takes b5? I don't get as good of endgame. Whereas if I play this one, the idea is, if white blocks here, then I can still cut. But if white connects, which white does in the game, I get this as my endgame. And so it's almost like the key spot of the shape. Whereas if I'm able to get this move, or if white's able to get this move, that helps white's liberties, believe it or not, even though it's an empty triangle. Yeah, because if white blocks, then I'm going to get my ko threats I wanted anyways. Now the next question is this really a ko threat? And the answer is yes. If you count this, like how many points do you count in this corner for white? Quite a bit, right? And black doesn't get any extra points. Like let's say something like this. Yeah, this is not a huge corner, but a healthy corner. But if we go here and white answers, I'm going to cut, squeeze like this, and white's all the way down to 2 liberties, or 2 eyes, 2 points, and I can even capture later or now if I wanted. So you can just compare the two, right? Compare this to that. Like, it is quite big. And so that's kind of the problem for white, is white needs to answer all these threats, because even if white loses the lower right ko, or wins the lower right ko but loses elsewhere, it's not going to be helpful. Or helping white win, I should say. So play there, just connect, because I have a threat here. Again, white could let me connect or capture, but white needs everything. And so white plays here, but that's just 5 stones, just like almost 14, 15 points, whereas I take the whole lower right, which is much more than that. And at this stage, the game's definitely just out of reach for white. White does actually go to counting, which again, with a little kid, I'm not super surprised, but yeah, the end result of the game, it's not the closest, I should say. Turns out, I think it was 53.5. It was quite a lot. Yeah, I think it was 53.5. So yeah. I was able to get because again, the last game I played with Xukun, he did end up beating me, so I was able to get my revenge, so I was happy with that. And I felt I was playing very well. Like, I felt very, very good about this game. So starting off the tournament with a very good win, at least I thought so. And in fact, did I play? No, okay. I played Xukun in the second round last year. Okay, yeah. But yeah, I played him at the Midwest last year and won there, and I won again here. And as I said, this was probably the last time I could play Xukun, so, I was playing him before he gets even stronger. Well, maybe he becomes pro or something someday, it's a good honor, I guess. But yeah, felt pretty good. I'm feeling good for the tournament as well, because it is a 2-day event, so stamina is very important. Like, knowing how to use your energy and reading and time is so important. When you have 5 games across 2 days, like comparing 6 games across 6 days of the Go Congress. 5 games in 2 days is quite a lot, especially with these arduous mid-level or mid-dawn games that are quite complicated. So, but yeah, feeling pretty good, and you look forward to the next video. It'll be my second round review. If you have any questions about this game, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video.